and welcome to What's Working Special Edition. This is without a doubt the greatest radio show you're listening to right now, and I can say that with confidence. And we're going to have another great radio show for you today. I have curated the guests. I have prepared the guests. I've told them what I think would be most interesting in their large ranges of expertise, and I have them queued up and ready to talk about them. But before we begin, I want to alert you to this upcoming Sunday and the significance of it, as well as graduation season. And why do I want to do that? Because the interview tomorrow evening is with Mary Beth Green. The 6 p.m. What's Working with Cam Marston show is usually a deep dive into one of the businesses that we have around here, or some sort of expert into workplace or workforce trends. Tomorrow night is a deep dive with Mary Beth Green. She has MB Green LLC, which they make bags, they make totes, and they're well done and they're very pretty. She's based in Fairhope. She has national distribution for them all over the country. That's what national distribution means. And they're also for sale through Neiman Marcus, at least for a little while longer. We'll see how well Neiman Marcus fares. There's been a lot of bankruptcies declared recently. But the point is, she's done a very good job creating a product, making it available nationally. She made it in her kitchen, the first one. Now she's got a little workshop. She got 17,000 of them at one point in different storage places over in Fairhope and began filling orders, and they're available, like I said, nationwide. They're beautiful. I go through the story with Mary Beth tomorrow night at 6 p.m. on how her company began, where its future is, and the reason for me telling you this is the following. Mary Beth has offered a very generous coupon for those that listen to the show and subscribe to the text service or just text it in. And if you want that coupon code for Mother's Day, if you want it for any of the graduates out there, in fact, part of the show, she says most of our people buy our bags as gifts. Hello, perfect, as gifts. So 44222, remember that number, text What's Working to 44222. And you'll get the information on how to get that coupon code for Mary Beth Green's bags. It's perfect for graduation season. It's perfect for Mother's Day. Happy to say that our efforts around building the show and building this content continue to bring us success. I'm excited that next week we'll announce a new advertiser. And just this morning we signed a current advertiser to 6 more months. It's just wonderful that the work that we've done is beginning to show as these people come on board and want to continue to come on board. That's great. Now, if you were a regular fan, you may remember my guest from last Thursday being David Zock. He is a futurist, and he always teaches me to think a little bit differently. Early this morning, I got from him a photograph of a Wall Street Journal Wall Street Journal ad that was in there this morning. And it is 7 concepts that IBM is predicting, this is an IBM ad, is predicting will change. And the point is that as IBM lists these 7 concepts, what IBM is doing here, to their credit, is defining their own future. And the reason I say that, the significance of that is, I, as a business owner myself, have been in the position of waiting to react. I've been busy, granted, I've been busy, but waiting to react to the new future or the new normal. IBM is saying, we're creating it ourselves. And that really stirred me up a little bit when I read that and thought, why can't I do the same? I'm not nearly as big as IBM, but why can't I begin to create my own future? And I'm going to keep you posted on this. You may remember last week that I lost a nice piece of business, or the opportunity for a nice piece of business. Well, I'm done licking my wounds. We've taken this concept, we've redeveloped it, and are bringing it back to market. And that began this morning. We are recreating our own future here. Today on the show, I'm going to have Dan Coughlin. He'll be in St. Louis. He is a business consultant and a business advisor and coach, and we're going to talk to him about strategic planning in the times of uncertain future. Can you even do this? Following Dan will be Liz Freeman. Long's Human Resources. They see a lot of workplace through the temporary services world, and we're going to ask her what's changing out there. We're then going to have Joe Toomey. He's the president of Murphy High School, and his morning announcements have gained him legendary status amongst the students as well as his neighbors who hear him over the loudspeakers. And don't forget to jump on Instagram and find us. You'll also find information on Mary Beth Green's bag as well as Facebook. We'll be back after this break with Dan Coughlin. You're listening to What's Working, brought to you by Regions. I'm Cam Marston. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions, and the focus of these Tuesday, Thursday shows are to help small businesses like yours and mine muddle through this crisis, this COVID economy, whatever it may be. On the land, I've got Dan Coughlin. Dan Coughlin comes to me as a referral from a mutual friend of Dan and mine when I reached out to him and say, who is the best personality contact with the most content in strategic planning that you know? The first and only name off his lips was Dan Coughlin's name. Dan has been in the strategic planning, the business consulting industry, let's say, for a good while now, and considers, at least according to his bio, a half dozen, if not more, Fortune 500 companies as his client, has led well over 500 meetings and presentations with clients. Well qualified for our conversation. Dan, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Thank you, Cam.
So I want to begin with the question of strategic planning in times of uncertainty. In the handful of times that I've been involved in strategic planning conversations with my clients, they felt like they had a pretty good bead on where the future was going, and they were developing plans within their business to pursue that future. They said, here's the marketplace. This is where it's going. Let's create a plan to follow that marketplace or to become a niche player in the marketplace, whatever it may be. But strategic planning, when the future is so very uncertain, seems like it might not be a good use of time. I'm curious of your thoughts about strategic planning right now when we don't know what's going to happen.
I think it's absolutely critical for every company right now to step back and think about their strategy. And I think the key is to follow a logical step-by-step process, and then you're going to have to make some educated guesses. But even in the best of times, we're going to have to make some educated guesses. What's happening right now is like a worldwide inflection point. Every organization is going to be affected. I think the key is to step back and think about it, and then begin to put together your strategy, which I'll be glad to walk you through some steps and some suggestions on that.
Yes, please. I'm talking personally here. I'd love some help creating some strategy for what my traditional business has been, because like I said in the opening comments, I'm trying to really take the bull by the horns and drive my own future rather than sitting there on my heels trying to react to something that comes down the pipe. Tell me what we should be doing.
Well, here's the first suggestion. It's an exercise I call stop and start over. And I think this is a really good exercise every time there's a major impact on the marketplace or your industry or your business. So stop and start over goes like this. You're not going to be able to physically stop your business. I mean, it's still going to be a ship moving. But what I want you to do is I want you to mentally stop your business where it is right now and start over from scratch. And when I say that, I don't really mean start from scratch, because you get to keep everything you've learned over the years, all your lessons learned, all your past experiences. But I want you to start with a blank page. So here's the exercise. I encourage you to take out a legal pad. On the first sheet of the legal pad, write down what your current business strategy is. What's your strategy been for the last, say, 6 months or a year or 2 years? So write that down on the first page. Rip that sheet off and put it over to the side. On the second page, what I suggest is you take about 10 minutes and you reflect on your business and over the years, what major lessons have you learned? What has worked well in terms of growing your business and what has not worked well in growing your business, and why? Write that down on the next page. And then take that sheet, rip it off, and put it over to the side. And now you're in a position to write down your strategic plan. So is that okay with you if I go ahead and move you through a few steps on that?
Yes, I'm writing quickly. This is excellent. You're giving us tactical, step-by-step things that we can do, not just concepts, but actions. Please continue.
Okay, now, regardless of the size of your business, and I've worked with, over $1 billion in revenue with some groups I've worked with, and some individuals who ran one-person businesses, the same 4 steps. So step 1, define the business you are in. Now, the way you answer that question can change because of this pandemic, but you need to know what business are you in. Define it, and I'll talk about that more in just a minute. The second step, clarify the strategic priorities for your customers and the strategic priorities for your business. And I'm going to walk you through that. Third, for each of those priorities, decide what you will do to achieve that priority outcome for your customer or for your business. And then fourth, decide how you will do those tactics in order to achieve those outcomes. So I'm going to walk you through each of those 4 steps, and I'll be glad to answer any other questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, please. I'm very curious about step 4 and 3, the differentiation between those two. They sound similar, so I'm eager to
Right.
have you walk me through this.
Okay, exactly. Those are, one's on tactics and one is on planning, an action plan, and execute. That's what you're going to execute. But I'll walk you through that. So first, what business are you in? And I encourage you to consider that question carefully and write down your answer over and over until you're really satisfied with it. You need to know this because it's going to affect everything else you do. The classic example of this was Walt Disney. In 1950, or from 1937 to 1950, people at the Walt Disney Company thought they were in the film business. And in 1950, Walt Disney said, no, we are in the family entertainment business. And it completely changed the future of the Walt Disney Company. Even to this day, they got into theme parks and they got into TV shows and lots of other things beyond just the film business. So first question is, what business are you in? Really think about that. Second question, who are your desired customers and what are the 1, 2, or 3 most important priority outcomes you want to improve for them? So 1 priority outcome for your customers is okay, 2 is fine, and 3 is the absolute maximum. If you write down 7 or 8 customer outcomes that you're trying to impact with your strategy, it's way, way, way too many. So it's 1, 2, or 3 outcomes for the customer that you're trying to impact.
Let me interrupt you. I want to clarify that. Customer outcomes. Okay. Define that for me. Be clear.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Your customer outcomes. What can I do to influence my customer outcomes? Now, what you're not talking about here is what is the revenue that I want from this customer. What you're talking about is
about that yet.
What are your customers' goals, and how do I influence those customers' goals?
Okay, so let's talk about customer goals. So first of all, we can talk about your customers or your listeners' customers. Who would be an example of a customer?
Let's pick one of the advertisers for the show. I've got, let's say I've got an insurance company that's a customer of mine that is an advertiser for the show.
Okay, so you want to improve the insurance company's outcomes.
Correct.
So what would you say is one important outcome for the insurance company?
Awareness and exposure. They need name recognition. They need top-of-mind awareness.
Okay. So you're going to help them in the awareness category, the branding category. You want them to stand out. You want to help them stand out in a crowd.
Correct.
So that's going to be, okay, well, this is good. So let's start with that as the one priority customer outcome that we're going to focus on. Now, let's say you had 1 or 2 other ones written down. How can I reduce the cost per new customer? I mean, for the insurance company, how can you help them reduce the cost it takes to bring on 1 new customer for their business?
So you're asking,
made that up, but
these would be outcomes that I know they would champion. They would welcome. They would certainly support my effort to help them in this.
Okay, perfect. So that's exactly what I mean. First, define the business you're in.
Yep.
Second, define 3 priority customer outcomes, at the most 3. So let's just pretend you had 10. What I would suggest is you say, okay, of those 10, what are the 3 most important priority customer outcomes you're trying to impact?
Uh-huh.
Because if you try to impact 10 outcomes for your customers, you're going to dilute your impact, and I don't think you're going to be nearly as effective for them or as effective in growing your business.
Okay, so what if I have, do I do this for each customer or my primary customers? Is it the 80-20 rule? I do it for the 20% of the customers that drive 80% of my revenue? What if I'm a retail organization and I have dozens, if not hundreds of customers? Do you lump them all together and assume their concerns are similar?
I think you're going to need to focus your company's efforts. So let's just pretend you're a retail company and you have 100 different types of people that buy from your retail center, like Amazon has hundreds of thousands or Google has, tens of thousands of different customers, you'll still need to identify what do you think of all, as you look, whether you have one type of customer or you have 100 different types of customers. What I'm encouraging you to do is to say, okay, what customer outcomes am I going to impact?
Yeah.
And I don't want to focus on more than 3.
Got it.
So if you have to look at your customers in an aggregate, then you can identify 3 outcomes that way. Or if you have the same type of customer over and over, you could identify, the 3. You can get, the tighter your customer base, the more focused you can become.
Sure.
But either way, what I'm asking you to do is, as you write your strategy, is to narrow it down to 3 customer outcomes, not for your business, but for your customers.
I understand. Okay, let's go back. The question was, what business are you in? Then what are your desired customers' outcomes? What do you want to improve for them is what I've written. So I think there was a third step in this as well.
Well, there's more to this.
Yeah.
So the second step is clarify the strategic priorities for your customers and for your business. So what I'm asking you to do is to write down 1, 2, or 3 strategic priority outcomes for your customers. And then I want you to write down 1, 2, or 3 strategic priorities for your business. So let's just take your business. If you do a great job for this insurance company, what outcome for your business are you trying to impact?
An extended contract, a renewal of the contract.
Okay, that's one outcome. Another outcome you might want to be trying to improve for your business is to strengthen relationships with a core set of customers. So I don't know your business right now, but let's just pretend you had 50 different customers in 2019. And part of 2020 is you're deciding what I really want is I want 10 great customers where I really focus on just those 10. Maybe that's one of your outcomes. Would that be a fair thing to say?
Absolutely.
Okay. So now you have 2 things. One is you want to get the extended contract. You want to continue with this insurance company. And as part of your new strategy, your focus for 2020 and beyond is instead of trying to get as many customers as you can, you want a smaller set of customers with greater loyalty and more of a long-term relationship. I actually just made that up, so I don't really know if that's exactly what you would say.
Sure. That's very applicable. Ain't nothing wrong with any of this.
Okay, so now you have, I think we came up with 2 customer outcomes that you're going to focus on and 2 priority outcomes for your business. Okay?
Yep.
Okay, step 3. Now that you've written that down, what I want you to do is I want you to think of, at most, 3 tactics for each of those outcomes.
3 tactics.
So let's start with your insurance company. And the customer outcome for the insurance company, the first one was?
First outcome is an extended contract.
No, that was for your company.
Okay. For their company. Awareness, top-of-mind awareness. That we want their clients to keep them at top-of-mind awareness.
So on your legal pad, here's what you've written down so far. So we could actually do this for your business if you want. How would you answer the first question? How do you define the business you're in?
That's a great question. It's survival. It's the business that I'm in, and I'm watching the time here. We're coming up to the break. Is bringing content and awareness to the people who I feel would benefit and appreciate it the most. That's what this show's about.
Okay. If you bring content and awareness to your listeners, okay, so you're in the business of bringing useful and valuable content. You're in the content business?
Correct. Curating it.
Okay. You cut me off whenever you have to go to break. You're in the content business. You have an insurance company as a customer, and the priority outcome for the insurance company is to help them create greater awareness for potential customers for their business.
Correct.
Is that good so far?
So far, so good.
Then the third question, the third step in the strategic planning process is decide what you will do to help your customer achieve that priority outcome. So what would be one tactic that you would do to help your insurance company
just continue the ad placements, social media promotion, the things that I feel like we're doing but really need to refine. We got 1 minute. Give me one more good tip, piece of advice within a minute before we go to break that'll help these listeners kind of sum up the content that you've given us.
Well, what I would suggest is you finish it off. The fourth thing is that you decide what you're going to actually do to increase the insurance company's social media.
Yeah.
And so by doing that, you would write down something that you're actually going to do. You're going to set up a meeting.
Yeah.
You're going to walk them through a seminar or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so there it is. That is your strategic plan. What business are you in? What's the priority outcome for your customer? What are you going to do to help the customer? And then write down the action plan. How are you actually going to make that happen?
That sounds
and
good.
that's the basic 4 steps that you can repeat. And the key, I guess, if you want me to leave you with one key, is no more than 3 customer outcomes, no more than 3 outcomes for your business. If you narrow your focus, you can go much, much deeper and more effectively than if you try to cover too many things.
Dan Coughlin is a business consultant, a business coach. I want you guys to listen for this podcast title, Trying, Learning, and Improving as a Business Leader. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, and you can get a link to it by texting What's Working to 44222. Dan, thank you so much for your time. We'll be back after this break. You're listening to What's Working. Just back, you're listening to What's Working. I want to thank Dan Coughlin. We got cut off a little bit, Dan, and I apologize for that. However, I can certainly see the need for an entire show with you as the guest, if you'd be willing to come back and walk me through this very deliberately. In fact, perhaps we can pick one of our listeners' businesses and have them walk through this with you and see how this strategic plan, if we can fit it in within an hour, really takes shape. Thank you so much for your time. On the line now is Liz Freeman. She's been a guest on our Wednesday evening shows in the past. She's third-generation owner of her family's staffing and recruiting firm, currently serves as the president of the company responsible for all aspects of the business. Liz, welcome back to What's Working.
Thank you, Cam. Glad to be here.
The nature of your business has you in a lot of different businesses. You're sending your employees in there, and I can't help but think in this process you see a lot of things that are working as well as not working so well in the businesses. I'm wondering if we could get your take on what's going on out there, if the temp staffing market is surging, if it's declining. What's going on with you? I kind of think of you as a leading indicator, perhaps, of the economy. What are you seeing?
Yeah, you're right. Here at Long's, we've seen changes and evolution in the types of business that we've been doing. And, of course, a lot of these essential businesses are staffing up more. We have seen a lot of layoffs for companies that just, there's some issue within the supply chain and, need to just retract their staff for a certain period of time. So we've seen quite a few things. It's the biggest challenge for us was shifting the way that we interviewed applicants and processed applicants, and then also helping our customers get through that transition as well, which is why it's just so important to have strong communication with our customers, with our applicants, so that even when you're distanced from each other, you have each other's back and you try to make sure that everybody is as safe and compliant as possible.
I know you're a true partner with the companies that you work with, but and I hear that come out in your comments. Tell me a little bit, though, about the way you're interviewing applicants. I presume you're now doing it virtually.
Yes, absolutely. So that's been a very interesting shift for us because we do both, the temp staffing side, which is a lot of walk-in, face-to-face, high volume, large number of interviews per day, as well as our executive recruiting. And that has always been, we are used to doing video conferencing if we're recruiting across the nation or more phone, deep dive phone interviews. So that was a transition, particularly for our temporary staffing recruiters, in that they could only talk initially to our candidates over the phone, and they're so used to, being there face-to-face with them. So we did have to close our doors to protect everyone and adjust our process, and then do a lot of training with our recruiters to really help them identify maybe red flags and dig deeper in that phone conversation initially. So that's been an interesting transition, and also coaching our applicants and our customers in the change in the way in which they're interviewing. So we create a resource page on our website that provides links to, how as an applicant, how to phone screen, how to video conference well, and then also some training, some free training there so that they can sharpen their skills if they're currently out of work and kind of adjust for what, these future skills will be.
There's certainly people listening, Liz, that are going to have to interview for a job virtually through a telephone or through a web conference with a camera. Do you have any tips for delivering your interview, your capabilities virtually versus individually across the desk or something?
Well, yes. I mean, first of all, and you'd be surprised how people don't really prepare and do a test run with the technology to ensure that when they are on the spot, that they have a clear line. They're not going to drop anyone. There's not a dog barking in the background. There's not music playing in the background. So, all of those things, it's treated as, the first impression. And even not answering, that's happened a lot, unfortunately, with our temporary staff. They won't answer our phone screen, which is the first part of the test.
Yeah.
You got to answer when we ask you to answer. But, it is just maintaining professionalism. You need to be even more poised, I would believe, in a Zoom call than you are in person, because there's a lot of there's just more to that conversation, a lot of the nonverbals that you can't quite get over video.
Yeah, I bet. Are people more interested in, let's talk about the interviewers. Do they like this process more? Are they getting more used to it, or they still wish that you could be face-to-face?
I think they're getting used to it. And we actually had to guide some clients who knew they had a hire they needed to make, but maybe they weren't back in the office yet. And, small businesses that are thinking, wow, I need to interview them, but how do I do that? So we just kind of coach them and walk them through it and set all that up for them, and then also give them that guide to show them, how to have a more productive interview over video.
I know your business clients are very important to you, but so are the temps that come in that work for you. Are you doing anything to assure those temporary staffing members that the workplaces that they're going to are safe and clean and are well cared for? Are you having to check in on those workplaces to say, hey, I want to make sure this place is clean and good and safe for my people?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. When that's, again, where it comes back to having good relationships with your clients. And on the front end, when we're doing that, when we're going through the hiring process, we have, we explain all of our policies, both on the client side and on the applicant side. So they understand the measures we're taking internally and then the expectations on the job site. And we're always in communication with our clients and our applicants, just to kind of keep an ear to the ground, and we have not had a problem. It's been, people have been very aware and cautious, so we're very grateful.
One of the comments that you made as you and I were preparing for this conversation discussed the effect unemployment benefits are having in the hiring process. Can you go into that?
Oh, wow, sure. It's been a bit of a challenge, and it was a big fear for us, of course, when this initially hit and they came out with the additional federal unemployment payment. So, our immediate fear, we already know that it can be challenging to get people back to work, just being in the temporary staffing business. And, unemployment benefits are there for a reason. They're there to fill the gap while you're off of one assignment, looking for another, and then going back to work. So they're not designed just to take a vacation until they run out and get back to work. So that was a concern of ours. We've had several examples where we've been pleasantly surprised of people that knew, sitting on my couch is not going to help me long term. And even for a $9 an hour job, willing to take it to have 40 hours a week and something that'll, it'll be long term. So we appreciate that sight and vision. Yet it is a struggle. I mean, we will have people that won't answer the phone in order to, not have to be denied their unemployment benefits. But I hate to be cynical, but it's just the reality of it. I'm paying somebody $11 an hour, and they can make $22 an hour. At home, sometimes it can be a hard sell.
I can imagine that it would be. Yeah, the logic would make that a difficult sell. I'm curious if there are any job types or demands from your employers in terms of skills that have suddenly risen up as a result of the COVID economy that you're struggling to fill.
Well, the challenge has just been for people to push and work through the fear of what exists, and to show up at a facility to work. Of course, healthcare has just been desperate for people to assist, and companies. So there's a lot of production for people that have been been innovative and kind of retooled and figured out ways to produce products that can be used during this crisis. So, we've seen a lot of those types of positions come up. Of course, IT will always, especially in this environment, be big because of the dependency now. I mean, look at what the pressure we're putting on our infrastructure right now. So, and people are trying to improve their remote options and opportunities, and so there's just so much pressure on information technology. So those positions have been key.
Yeah, you can't find enough people to fill those types of positions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go back to the comment I made as you and I began this conversation, which is temporary staffing is a leading economic indicator. Do you feel like that's the role your industry has played over the years?
I do. We typically, and this is what, typically after a recession, which is basically what we're in right now, you'll see that contract temp piece pick up. And so, it's an opportunity. Everybody's wounded right now, and everyone is uncertain of their future, which I appreciate the strategic planning concept, because we do need to, pull up our big person pants and look forward. But, the future is uncertain. And so you're not exactly sure when that volume will come back and how it's going to come back. So people do have a tendency to utilize temporary staffing to start gradually pulling back up and figuring out what that new level set is.
Well, Liz, if you're a leading economic indicator, what are your economics predicting for us?
Well, right now, if I'm going to be honest, I'm scared to death. But that's just because I'm a small business owner with lots of people looking to me for what's going to happen in the future. But I do see things are going to settle back down. It's so encouraging to see businesses opening up again, parking lots with cars in them, activity around. That's exactly what it's going to take to get everything back up and running. So I'm very optimistic about what's ahead.
That's good. I, like you, am scared to death, but am very optimistic about what's ahead. And I'm curious if there are any new initiatives that you guys, we just have 1 minute, real quick, initiative that you guys have begun that you think will stick around.
We are really pushing our company values and how we relate to our customer, which is both on the applicant and the client side. Our applicants are our product, so that's a very different business to be in. And so how do we take care of that product to put them in the right place and take care of our clients? So
Excellent.
We're doing a lot of focus on that now, and just trying to identify the right people with the right talent, those talents that will take us forward in this sort of new workplace.
Liz Freeman is the third-generation owner of her family staffing company, Longs Human Resources. She currently serves as the president. You can find the jobs available in our marketplace by texting What's Working to 44222, and you can get to Liz's website. We'll be back after this break. You're listening to What's Working. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. Want to thank Liz Freeman for her time. She's always a welcome guest, very well prepared, very well spoken, and we're going to move with that thought into our final guest. What you guys, before that, I've made a mistake. Before that, what we like to do is highlight some of the comments on the show thus far, and want to begin with Dan Coughlin's comments. It's called Stop and Start Over. The beginning of his strategic planning process. Step 1, stop and start over. Mentally start over from scratch. Get a blank page. Number 1 is your current business strategy. Page 2, lessons that you learned, both good and bad. And page 3, where you want this thing to go. A couple of other ones. Refine the business that you're in. What would you do to refine the business that you're in? Clarify strategic priorities for customers and for yourself, and what will you do to achieve them? That's where you get into tactics. Finally, you ask yourself the difficult question, what business are you truly in? He told us the story of Disney being in family entertainment, not movies. And who are the desired customers and priorities for the business? I think we'd like to get him back on for a deeper dive. Liz Freeman gave us stories about what's going on in her workplace. They are protecting their employees by sending them to workplaces where they know the environment's good. They can't get enough IT people to hire out to send into their clients. And she, like so much of us, is optimistic but afraid at the same time. Which leads us to Principal Joe Toomey. Joe is in his 28th year of education. They've all been in the Mobile County Public School System. A principal for 14 years and is presently the principal at Murphy High School. I have not met Joe, but his reputation precedes him, particularly his morning announcements, which I hear that through Midtown, many of the residents hear them and they come outside and have their coffee to listen to them. Joe, thank you so much. Welcome to What's Working.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Tell me about your thinking that gave you this new motivational style of announcements every day. Where did this come from? This is so atypical, I think, to school systems, at least the way I remember them.
Well, I think it came from actually going into a room while announcements were happening and seeing that, nobody was really listening. And 7 or 8 years ago, I would go into a room and it would be, just a mundane, here's our motto, here's our thought for the day or whatever. So I just wanted to do something that was a little different that might catch kids' interest. And obviously, like you said, it really took off, and the people drop their kids off and hang around so they can hear it, or they step out, like you said, and drink their coffee so they can hear it. So it's really something that's taken off. My students love it, and they send me quotes. My teachers will send me quotes that I could use. So it's just been kind of organic.
Well, tell me, is there a theme to what you tell your students? Is it always future-based? Is it character-based? Tell me, is there a theme?
The truth is it's whatever I feel like they need that day. I wake up that morning, I pick it, and I never script it. I never write it down. I just pick the quote that I want to use. If maybe we had an issue, with something, and I will pick something character-based, or like today was basically for my seniors. I picked something that was more of a future, here's how you need to be. But a lot of it is character. All of it is positive. If there's a way I can take a negative and make it a positive, we just try to get our kids every day. It's not like a moment of zen, but it's always something that's going to start their day off positive.
Yeah, I don't know what would happen if the Mobile County Public School System felt like you were teaching a moment of zen in Mobile, Alabama. There would be an upheaval that we couldn't imagine if that were to happen. But, Joe, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you. Help us out. You heard perhaps Liz Freeman say just a moment ago, she's optimistic but afraid. I think she reflects a lot of us. Give us a way to think about today.
Well, I'll go with the launch I used today, which I think works very well with that. It's Ralph Waldo Emerson saying, don't go where the path leads, but instead, go and make your own path. And I just think that this is a situation where in education, and I know like my wife she works in the restaurant industry, we've had to rethink the things that we're doing, and, not all of them are bad. A lot of the things that we've done since this, pandemic has started have been beneficial. there are things that we do in education that we're doing better now. There are things that we've had to do that won't be as good, and we'll get rid of those things. But I just think that we don't have to just follow what's always been done that way. That's my least favorite saying in the world. It's always been done that way. Well, you can never say that again. Nobody. Because it's never been done like this. You've never had to go to a restaurant and, have a glove on and a mask on and pick up your food, and you've never done your lessons at home, as a high school kid. So we can get rid of that, and we can take what's left over, what we've done that's right, and push that forward. There's been a kinder, gentler new world coming forth. And so I want everybody to take those moments and remember that, when we get out here in the real world, the things that bothered you in February, let's don't let them bother us in September. Those things are minor, and we know that now. So we want to be kind and want to make sure that we're always the people that are out here every day lifting each other up. If I'm successful, then you should be happy for that instead of jealous. If you're successful, I should never talk behind your back because you're successful. I should be lifting you up as a brother and as a friend and as a human being. And I think if we can do that, well, then this was all worth it. I'm not saying that the deaths are, worth it, but you understand what I'm saying is that we need to learn from where we've been.
We can't let these lessons go unlearned. We can't come around to September and let these lessons go unlearned and revert back. I think many of us have habits that we look back on now and say, I'm not sure this was really a beneficial habit. I did it. It didn't cause obvious destruction, but looking back on it, maybe it wasn't a beneficial habit, and I was forced to let go of it, and I'm glad to have let it go. And I suspect there'll be a lot of that in the future. Joe, any comments?
Well, I've always thought that a man was supposed to shake your hand.
Yeah.
And now, you think about the Japanese, they bow.
Yeah.
I'm going to find something different. I'm going to be a different person going forward, and I'm a touchy-feely person, and I'm going to miss that. But for the good of society, it's not worth, me being able to say I'm shaking hands and causing problems. So I'm going to be a fist bump, something different. And I just feel like I don't want to do this again. So if we don't want to do it again, we better have learned our lesson the first time. I was a history teacher, the old saying, and we don't want to repeat history. So we do have to find things that are better for everybody.
Joe Toomey is the principal at Murphy High School. Begins every day with an inspirational message. Folks, you're listening to What's Working. We'll have another show for you on Thursday. Joe, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Folks, talk to you Thursday. Don't forget, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston.